welcome back to Next Wave Conversations, brought to you by the Innovate GPT Group. I'm your host, Chris Lukanenko, and I just want to acknowledge today that we're on the country of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. And today we have the inspiring Lisa Sarago, a proud Bundaburra Yidinji, Western Yallinji woman, and the founder of Land on Heart. Lisa's journey from IT skeptic to running her second tech startup is remarkable. Her advocacy for Indigenous representation and cultural inclusivity in tech is actually groundbreaking. We'll dive into Lisa's path to success, the challenges she's overcome, and how her cultural heritage influences her leadership. We'll also explore her vision for a more inclusive tech future and how she's paving the way for the next generation of Indigenous tech leaders. So let's get into this. Welcome to the podcast, Lisa.
Hi, thank you, Chris.
I'm so excited to have you here. I've told you that because I have seen you speak on a number of occasions, and I think the combination of being an amazing woman in the tech field with your cultural heritage, Indigenous heritage, is just a really great story, and that's what I love on this podcast. And I know you're a storyteller, so I'm so keen to have you here. My first question for you is: what is an IT skeptic doing in the IT field?
I wouldn't call myself yes, I am, I suppose, a late adapter, but I'm also just not very good at tech.
So why not work in it?
Actually, funny story. I sort of, when I was moving into tech, my best friend rings me, and she was the one that I'd always call and say, my computer's not working. So she said, what are you doing? I said, I'm running a startup in tech. And she just lost it. She thought it was funny. So I guess how I got into tech was coming over to basically help build up a startup and using my leadership skills. As a professional, I've been in a whole range of different industries as well. So I think I bring a really different perspective when I'm leading a team, but also thinking strategically. And my passion's about my people. So it's always been, even as a leader, always grassroots is there with me. And yeah, just wanting to make sure that tech's the third largest industry. We need to get Indigenous people into tech. Our people should be, enjoying and dominating the tech industry.
Absolutely.
So that's why I got in. I just went, we can do this. There's not a lot of Indigenous women that are leaders. I can name the ones that I know on one hand. And just making sure that we're out there, representing. And
Absolutely.
trying to build that pipeline for Indigenous talent to come through.
And I think you put it well there. You've got other skills like that. Just because you haven't worked in tech before doesn't mean you haven't got hundreds of transferable skills from all your other experiences in life you can't bring into the tech world and start something new. Make the pivot, have a crack. I love it. I really do. I mentioned in the open, I've heard you speak on a number of occasions, and that's why I wanted to get you onto the podcast, because I love how you weave your cultural stories in with your views and experiences in the modern world. And one that really resonated with me, and I've probably told this story poorly to other people as I've sort of tried to recount your stories, but you described the Aboriginal women, the elders, as the original entrepreneurs. And I just loved that idea. Can you share that with the listeners?
Yeah, I can. There's two parts of this. I recently came across a staunch Aboriginal woman leader who actually highlighted some stuff that I didn't know about Sydney. We're on Euro country at the moment. But just and resonated with me. Actually, my cousin at the moment is a finalist for Native Person of the Year. She's running her own business as well.
Magnificent.
We ran into each other a couple of weeks ago. She was here for an event, and we were talking about our great-grandmother. So we come from a line of women that were out there, basically out of necessity as well, but they were out there earning money for very large families. One of my grandmothers had like 10 kids, 11 kids.
Oh, wow.
And I hear stories about how she used to get out on a rowboat because they were on Palm Island, and she'd get out on a rowboat. The kids are at the house with my grandfather, and she'd go diving for coral, and she would paint and sell it to the tourists to make money.
Awesome.
And she was able to leave Palm Island. She got permission to leave Palm Island and then purchase a house. So that was one story. The story that I tell is not mine. It is definitely from the Eora Nation, but it blew my mind where really resonated that we are a matriarchal society. And this person shared with us in this lecture pictures of an Aboriginal woman leader with her hunting party that were going out hunting because the first colonists were there and they were actually bartering for food and stuff like that. She also referred to the women were the ones that were the fishermen in the fishing boats, not the men, but they were painted by white
That's
men.
right, yes.
So, we were, and she said, that grandmother had gone off and bought a house for their home. So that was way back in the day, the first colonists. So, I think the way we hold it together within our what I do say when we're talking about women's rights or women in tech is for us, we've got a different experience. We, in our homes, we sit at the table with our men. In our communities, we sit at the table with our men. As soon as we step outside of our homes, our communities, we're no longer there. So I've always said it's white man, white woman, black man, black woman. That's the way we're sort of viewed in Western society and in Australia. And so there's a lot of conflict going on internally for me because it's very hard to kind of like grapple with that and go, hang on a second, like I don't have a voice here. And in tech, it's even more prominent.
More so, yeah.
I don't think I've ever felt I've never ever been the only woman in a room. So this is the first industry, usually the only black person, but never usually the only woman. So it's a very interesting, different type of uncomfortableness, if you can say that.
Yeah, no, I can definitely relate because as you know, my wife, I've mentioned her a lot of times on this podcast. I should get her on one day, but she has been that only woman.
You need to get her on.
I think I do. She's been that only woman in a room, and she's recounted stories to me of how uncomfortable that has made her feel on occasions, but also she's risen above it. And I think that's what I'm seeing here with you. You've got similar sort of issues to deal with, but you are rising above it, paying homage to the old girls from back in the day who were the original entrepreneurs, which I absolutely love. And I'm wondering how much of that around your cultural background and those very influential matriarchal figures has shaped how you are operating today in this tech industry where it's all about, trying to become a leader and innovate.
Yeah, I think that I always have culture and heart with me in my leadership journey, full stop.
Wearing heart on your lapel badge, so I might say. Yes, lovely.
So I always, that's definitely part of who I am. That's part of my DNA. I got asked this question a while back. I was adopted into a Torres Strait Island family as well. So one of my grandmothers is actually Torres Strait. She's no longer with us. And it was her way of loving. That woman has so many people go through her house. And like she took care of them. So when I was born here in Sydney, and when my parents went home for the first time, that was my first home in North Queensland, was at my grandma's place. So the way she just treated people was so much unconditional love, and just how she faced adversity was with love. Everything was with love. And there's this other side as well, especially with my sisters and friends, that when I go home, we still have that sense of humor. So we faced adversity with humor all the time. We're always mocking each other, mocking ourselves. Like that's a way that we kind of get over that. So in leadership, using that love and ensuring that I know that I'm not here for any other reason other than I'm standing on the shoulders of some really staunch Aboriginal women and Torres Strait. So I think it's just a matter of I actually don't know how to put it into words. So someone asked me before, and I said, we're just a very strong, we have a joke that it's the aunties that you got to worry about, not the uncles.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just about making sure that, it's our cultural way of being, is the humility as well.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was an extremely good sports person, but he never talked about himself. It's been really awesome.
Yeah, okay.
And he was good at everything, which really made me sick. But it was that humbleness as well. So as a humble leader, just making sure that you're still part of community, and no job is ever below me. I've been a CEO and gone out and watched the phones for while my trainee goes off for lunch, and I've been asked, why are you doing that? I said, well, if it's good enough for her, it's good enough for me. And there's no reason why a CEO can't be answering the phones.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I think you must be doing something right, because if people don't know, you were the national award winner at the 2022 Women in Digital Awards, which is awesome. And I feel like that's a testament to your hard work in the field. You are certainly giving so much back in this field, and it's an awesome personal achievement. But I feel like you'll be the first person to spin that narrative away from yourself and focus on what your success means for those that are following you. Yep. Am I right?
Yeah.
I want you to take the credit, because it's magnificent.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the stuff in tech. I think it was also the stuff that I had done leading up to getting into tech. So for 20 years ish, doing a lot of trailblazing and establishing services and remote communities, but also across Queensland. When I was in government as well as non-government. So I've had a range of different things. And again, always the heart of what was driving me was my people, and making sure that people that weren't able to, get ahead in life were given opportunities. And that's why tech is so cool, because we can take that to remote communities. We can take that to rural communities. Tech is one of the very few industries that people don't have to move, and being able to stay at home in a safe environment where they feel comfortable. Yeah, okay. That's the other beautiful thing about tech. I did spin it back to my people.
Well, you know what you also did then? You used the T word, trailblazer. Yeah. And I've heard you say before you don't like to be called a trailblazer, but if the shoe fits.
Yeah, there was, there's not, like I said, there's not many of us, and which is why there's a couple of us actually talking about, for my age, not being able to talk about being uncomfortable about being a woman in tech. And the first time I could open up and talk about that was with other Murray women. And sitting there and listening and talking about that. And I sort of sat back and went, I need to do something for other young women. I've got 2 daughters. So I went back to the girls and I said, listen, I'm going to start a podcast for Indigenous women in tech. And they jumped on board. So we're about to roll out some information sessions and do some podcasting so that people can access information and hear other people's journeys, because we are important. The first. It's easy to look at someone and go, well, they did this and they did that, but you don't know the struggles that go on underneath and how they got through that. And that is really key to helping other young women come through, even not young women, but women coming into tech.
Oh, absolutely. And you can't be what you can't see.
That's right.
I love that idea. I think that's maybe something that I love about the women in tech movement, just pulling that to a side for the moment, because it's quite collaborative. They're always helping out each other's sisters and all that sort of thing. And I think you've got that cultural element from your background with the sisters helping each other out and the women in tech. It's like a double bang. And I just love that. That's the fact, because I've also got a daughter, and she's probably going to head into the sciencey field, which means she's probably going to come across the tech as well. And I want her to get all the opportunities that I was given,
and feel supported at work, and feel supported
absolutely
to go and do what she wants to do.
And right now I'm not sure that's the case, which worries me. What can I do as a girl dad to help her? I'm not sure. I'm certainly being an ally of people such as yourselves and looking to promote the cause wherever I can is a start. But I feel like, same thing, you can't be what you can't see. She probably looks to her mother now, but what else can I do to help her?
I don't know.
We
'Cause I'm not a man.
No. We can't solve everything here today.
No, but you probably don't know this, but my original degree is psychology. So I actually have a science degree, and I didn't realize this until my daughter I was typing away, and she's lying on the floor looking up at I've got a brag wall. She said, "Oh, you've got a science degree. You're a STEM girl." And I said, "Yeah, I don't like to talk about that, but yeah, I didn't realize that." And I just went,
Yeah.
that's actually the field I should have been in. Instead, in year 11 and 12, I decided to do art and photography for this first time in my life, and my mother was not happy. But full circle, I've come back to tech. But yeah, I guess just any information you have, sharing her and encouraging her as her dad, is a good way to kind of support her.
Do you feel that Indigenous kids don't see tech as a part of their future?
I know that Indigenous kids don't see that as part of their future.
Can you break that down a little bit for us?
Yeah, and it's funny because we are trying to get a traineeship program happening in Geelong, and that was the feedback. I knew it was going to happen, but that was the feedback that we got was kids don't see tech as an actual industry that you can get into. Even when I came over into tech, I came over as a CEO to run a group of companies. I didn't come over to be a trainee. So some of the roles sound really scary. So there's a whole mythology, or it just seems mysterious. Like Indigenous kids, generally speaking, when I was growing up, it's usually education or health that you get, and the boys go into construction, and that's what generally people get pushed to go and do and encouraged to do. I was never encouraged to do psychology. I was never encouraged to do tech or anything like that. So there's a big piece that I want to land on heart to do, and that is that whole educating around what those roles are. And I use this example. I literally just had this conversation with a recruiter this morning. And I said, when I first said, what is a BA? And I said, business analyst, and it sounded so sophisticated. I said, break that down. What does that mean? When they explained it, I said, so you need common sense and you can write, basically.
Pretty much.
And they went, that's exactly what they said. And I said, so there's a whole bunch of Indigenous people that I know could do that role just like that. So it's just about making sure that we actually break that down and say, these are the things that you can do. These are the cool things that you can do in tech. Like I used to hate going into LinkedIn and Microsoft and those offices and with my staff. It's like, don't look at the pinball machine, don't look at the free food. But there's so many cool things that I think we've got the oldest living culture. Imagine if someone had a whole heap of tech capability, could work out some really cool innovative tech solutions for a bunch of things. Like we are the original innovators anyway. So
yeah, nice. So what are you doing in that space to innovate, whether it be with Lean on Heart or other things that you're doing?
So one of the really cool things that we're doing is we just purchased a company called Hitnet, and it had been rolled out about 20 years ago. They're these little mobile kiosks. Working in Cape York and Torres, and also I lived in Bamaga and I lived in Cooktown. I remember in Cooktown and Weipa seeing these little kiosks. And the whole reason why they were there was it was to ensure that people had access to health information. So it was all about health promotion because some people didn't feel comfortable going in and asking for a variety of reasons. And so it kind of morphed a little bit over the 20 years, and they've got other content in there that people can access. And then they built this thing called My Place, where people could actually upload little videos that only stays in that community and on their little portal within.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, it is. It's cool. So we actually want to blow that out and wrap around projects so that we're dealing with digital literacy issues. So we know that there's a whole range of digital literacy issues in our remote communities. So, once they're literate, what do we do with that? So it's about whatever project that they want to do. Again, talking about grassroots, it's about what the community wants. If they want to capture language, if they want to capture cultural stories, using tech and uploading that, and in line with Indigenous data sovereignty, stays theirs. If they want to share that or on sell that, or say, we've got a raft of different cultural stories that we want to promote, but we want a fee for that. If they want to build that into a business, yes, we'll help support them to do that. Or if they just want to share it, but it's theirs. And in the meantime, we've been able to get people interested in tech, and hopefully some people.
That's the thing, isn't it?
Yep.
Interested in it, then maybe they can start to take a further interest, become part of the industry, increase the representation of the Indigenous people within the industry, which, if you take that a step further, allows their experiences to add another cultural lens into developing technology and solutions and things like that. Like, from a white man outsider, but that to me seems like a really important thing for your people to have, that extra cultural lens being thrown over the top of developments such as this. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And flip it the other side, it's also a value add to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
It's a culture, and it's something that hasn't been tapped into yet in terms of tech.
Yep.
The other thing is those kiosks will eventually become our Indigenous tech skills hubs, where we will have some people answering phone calls, and hopefully, instead of corporates going offshore for their IT support, they come onshore.
Okay, yeah, cool.
And we just start building those pipeline and that pathway of talent for people. If they want to build their own tech, they can. Or if they want to go work for Google, they can. It's up to them.
What dreams do you have for Indigenous culture within the digital age? I've heard some stories recently that in some of the translation things that are going on, that we're recreating like lost languages and things like that. To me, would be a great one for your people. Are there other things along those lines that you dream of?
I have to say the language thing is very close to me, close to my heart. Some of my friends have been fortunate enough to learn their language growing up, and there are some words that we speak that I just thought were slang. And I've just found out, that's it. So we're actually, as a family, learning our language again. Our grandmother was taken, and she was a slave, so she never spoke her language with her kids.
Right.
So, and this was in our lifetime. We got colonised much later than people down south did.
Yep.
But the other part is capturing our stories.
Yeah.
But something that is really exciting that we're pursuing is working with ranger programs to help not only support them in terms of making their work easier, so they can just focus on doing work on country and fixing country and trying to reverse the effects of colonisation, but also capturing the awesome work that they actually do. Some of the way that we care for country is very different, and if we had adopted that across Australia, fire management is a big one. We and the world, because I want to shine a global light on Indigenous rangers. So that's something else that I'm super passionate about. Anyway, I've always been a fan of the ranger programs, and a bit of a shout out to Larissa Hale at Yukabaja at Cooktown. Staunch, deadly Aboriginal woman, and she runs their ranger program, but also runs the Queensland Indigenous Women Rangers Network, who one of my other cousins is also a part of. So there's a lot of women coming into the ranger.
It feels like a brilliant generative AI type of solution, where you're basically capturing knowledge from all these different spaces, getting it into something, and then pumping that out into maybe a lost language, for example, in audio, or creating videos or documentation that can help these people learn this and spread that knowledge. That to me seems like a brilliant thing. Maybe we'll just tick that off for something to talk about later, eh?
Yeah, well, one thing comes to mind. I was talking to one of my other cousins, and he runs a junior rangers program, and I was saying to him, wouldn't it be cool, because they do stuff in the schools, and I said, wouldn't it be cool that everyone, not just black kids, but everyone is learning our language and learning how to care for country and learning the actual language names, not just the scientific names of plants and stuff.
Oh, wow, yeah.
That'd be really cool. And there was a piece of tech that I heard about over in New Zealand, and I said, we could do this, and we could actually have it so that it plays the language to you too, so you can hear it and hear the language. So you're actually learning language. You're learning about country. You're learning about how to care for country as well. So yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, maybe we should have that discussion with some people that we know around the place at some stage. I think that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Hey, look, one of the things I think you do the best is build relationships. Like, we've probably only met each other half a dozen times. I feel like I know you. You know, you've met my wife.
You got me for life.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that is so important in this day and age, whether it be as an Indigenous woman or just a person in business, building those relationships. What are you doing to pay that forward with that knowledge to the other young women that you're working with on a day-to-day?
Yes. So I always say that we're the original networkers. Yeah. We have a saying, Murray Grapevine. Down here it's probably Curry Grapevine. But basically, even when I won Indigenous Leader of the Year, my very next thought was, okay, how do I make this happen for other women?
Yep.
I have a girl that I've mentored since she came out of university who still is she was actually there that night.
Oh, really? Yeah, okay. The
she was one of the ones that was talking.
Oh, at the event.
At the Tech Diversity
Awards. Yes, the Diversity Awards.
Yeah.
Okay,
so,
cool.
So I said to her, you've got to pay it forward because I mentored you and I introduced her to another young Torres Strait girl. So it's all about who else are you bringing along in your tribe. You've got your tribe of your sisters and your people who you lean on, and then you've got the ones that you want to bring in.
Yep.
I'm always bringing my daughters around to meet certain people as well, so they can see I know a lot of other women that are in different industries. So it's like, I don't want to push them into anything, but I want them to know they can do anything.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. Let's think big here. What's your vision for the next wave of Indigenous women or men, either or, kids coming through? What's your vision for them when they reach the time to go out into the workforce?
What are you talking about, in 10 years' time or?
Let's say 10 years. Okay. So we would have, this whole generative AI thing will have probably taken off by then. I'm assuming, Let's say, What's your dream for them?
In 10 years, we would have had our 15 Indigenous tech skills hubs happening around remote and rural communities. We would have had a whole team and nurtured a whole group of Indigenous talent to be able to produce awesome tech solutions for whatever it is. We've come up with some really awesome stuff without tech. So I can't wait to see what can happen there. We've got a whole group of Indigenous people representing in the Googles and the ServiceNows and the Salesforces, because they have culturally safe environments. They've got their whole organization humming nicely in terms of being inclusive around our culture. You can see what an Australian tech product is because you can see that it looks, feels and sounds like an Indigenous product, like it's Australian, but it's Indigenous.
Yep.
And we've got a whole bunch of, we've got 240 nations and groups, because one of my mob aren't a nation, but we've got over 240 of those. So hopefully have got a whole heap of languages that have been translated. We've created the tech to be able to, it doesn't matter, you plug it in and it plays English or Chinese or whatever, or not Chinese, Mandarin. It spits it back out in your own language. So yeah, that's where I hope Gen AI takes us, that we're able to revitalize that, but we're also able to dominate the spaces. And also using Indigenous culture to inform games and stuff. That would be so cool. Nice. So it's just Indigenous flavour through everything, whereas at the moment it's not there.
Very good. I think we've got a huge task ahead of us.
Yeah, we do.
But I think, but I also think, you're one of many that are, flying the flag, if you like, that's the right way to say it.
And there was Michaela Jade was before me, and she's a staunch leader as well. We've not had the pleasure to be able to be in each other's presence for too long. We've met once face to face. That's what happens when you live in Australia. But I follow her career, and she's doing amazing stuff as well. She was actually in Weipa, where I grew up, not too long ago, and shared a picture on Facebook. So
nice.
I'm not Facebook, LinkedIn. So yeah, there are a few of us out there. So
and of course that whole relationships thing and bringing people into your your circle from outside, wherever they may
collect
be
people,
from.
I
No,
say.
and I think that's one of your absolute gifts. You
Yeah.
collect people, you bring them in, you tell your story like you are here.
Yeah.
You get people like me who love your story and want to help you share it or do other things in other parts of the industry. And then all of a sudden you've got this wave of people working for your cause, which is, I think, is one of your superpowers.
Which is not my cause, it's
sorry, yes, no, correct.
cause of our people. So yeah. I can't wait. I wish I had a magic wand that I could fast forward in 10 years and see how awesome it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful thing. Also, don't wish your life away, but would it be great if we could get 10 years worth of...
I'll go back.
Yeah.
I'll go back and watch my girls graduate and stuff.
Great stuff. I've really loved having you here. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Yeah.
How about we end the chat there, and on that positive note, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Excellent.